Ladies and gentlemen, the ultimate goal of a country's foreign policy is to provide a blueprint and a strategy for achieving its national interests in line with the common good of the nation and shared prosperity. Therefore, the Kenya public has a frontline role in contributing to the formulation and implementation of foreign policy. This, I repeat, is the reason we are all gathered here today. Just as a reflection, what is the role of citizens in appreciating and promoting our country's national interests whenever our people interact with the international environment? How can we utilize our foreign policy to inculcate in our people patriotism and a fervent desire to positively project our country's image in the international arena? In short, we must close the missing link between the country's foreign policy and the citizens' understanding and engagement in our international affairs. In conclusion, I encourage you to have a candid discussion and an in-depth interrogation of the document to ensure that the final product of this foreign policy review process captures the perspectives and wishes of Kenyan citizens. When I talk of the budget, that will go as a comment that goes into the sessional paper. What happens when you do not resource a foreign service? Do you compromise a nation? Is the security of a nation under threat? Are the national interests under threat? So these are the kind of issues that I really want you good men and women to help us interrogate so that we can come up with good solutions. The global trends, as you've heard, are changing. We take pride in Kenya as hosting the UN system here, the largest in the global south. Today, we also take pride that Kenya is host to the largest World Bank office outside Washington. How do we leverage on that to consolidate Kenya's position as a financial hub? And from there, springboard into providing very supportive engagements for our neighbors. In firming up this foreign policy document, after today's public validation exercise, there shall follow a high-level retreat with His Excellency the President, William Ruto, to finalize the process. Notably, this is the first time in our history that the foreign policy review and development process will culminate in a sessional paper that will be tabled in Parliament for deliberations. This will further widen the avenue for public input through elected representatives. There is also need for consequential amendments to the Foreign Service Act of 2021 to make it fit for purpose in the mutating geopolitical landscape and the pressing diplomatic realities of our time. Additionally, the pursuit of national interests in the international arena has operational costs. Thus, the sessional paper shall aim at drawing Parliament's attention to the cost implications of our foreign policy formulation and implementation. The growing returns from our diplomatic engagements justify the need to increase the budgetary allocation for the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs. The Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs has had a series of engagements with diverse stakeholders as part of the process of reviewing Kenya's 2014 foreign policy document. The objective is to broaden and deepen our reach to Kenyans and make a foreign policy that reflects the aspirations of our nation. Looking back, our foreign policy has been detached, mysterious, and closed to the public, making it actually foreign to Kenyans. We have decided to break from this past situation and take foreign policy to the people to ensure that we move along with Kenyans in our diplomatic engagements. After all, public participation is a fundamental principle of Kenya's democratic governance and is enshrined in our country's constitution. In this review process, more than before, we have held several roundtable discussions and consultations with a wide range of stakeholders, including government ministries, departments and agencies, civil society organizations, media, academicians, ambassadors and high commissioners, the Council of Governors, Parliament, youth, judiciary, among others. Indeed, this is a foreign policy of the Republic of Kenya, and therefore should be anchored on broadened ownership, which includes all arms of government, the county governments, and most important, Kenyan citizens.
Kenya is a very generous host to refugees and asylum seekers and continues to offer them home and hope away from their countries. As the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, we applaud the government of Kenya for having embarked on the journey to review its foreign policy to be responsive to the current global environment. The document that is being validated today will ensure that Kenya remains a dedicated and strong member of the international community. Ladies and gentlemen, this review could not have come at a better time, since Kenya is in the process of developing a plan to shift its refugee management policy from encampment to that of integrated settlements. This will ensure inclusivity in the provision of services and interventions to refugees and the communities hosting them.
Your Excellency, we have engaged in an exercise that has been deeply, deeply humbling, but also deeply consultative. This exercise has enabled us to listen to many voices and appreciate many perspectives. We have paused and taken note of some of the decisions that we may have taken that may be out of tandem with the tempo of the expectations of citizens, but we've also, Excellency, taken appreciation of the fact that we have been consistent in our compliance with our obligations as a rule-respecting state on the continent. This exercise, Your Excellency, has now reached a very pivotal point, the point at which we come back to the same stakeholders whom we have consulted in the process, to again seek their appreciation that, in fact, we did listen and that we did incorporate their views. That is the purpose for this validation. Your Excellency, major disruptive and interconnected global trends are at play at the same time. From the technological revolution, demographic shifts, the climate cataclysms, economic and debt distresses, the erosion of democracy, geopolitical power transitions, notably the emerging shift from a world centered or from a global economy that is centered on Northern Atlantic, and a notable shift eastwards, urbanization, health pandemics, and a fraying multilateral order, an order that is unable to provide guardrails for negotiating global public goods or halting conflicts. These are the major trends that we are confronted with at the moment. Your Excellency, and because what is, that is the normative and institutional architectures, no longer suffice, and what is to replace them remain yet unclear and unconcretized. We are therefore in this space, this interregnum, negotiating the future while maintaining a transitional presence. At such interstices in the existing fabric, we must seek stability, certainty, and order while cultivating change. Change as the process of successive replacement of anchor practices. We must continue to work with the existing through the responsible and innovative use of the existing fabric. We must repair the existing and make it more functional.